Good evening, everyone. I officially call the school board meeting for January 10th, 2024 at 7:05 to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Item number 3 on the agenda this evening is the approval of the school board meeting minutes dated December 13th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the order?
Madam Mayor,
Motion made by Sarah Truman.
I move we approve the school board meeting minutes dated November 8th, 2023.
Second.
Motion has been made by school board member Truman, second by school board member Roach. Any discussion on the minutes? Counselor, school board member Johnston?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to correct one tiny little error on the last sheet of the minutes relating to Article J, which is first reading of policies, as it's stated at the beginning, that names the policies that are to have first reading. But when it mentions that I move to approve these policies, it says the second reading of policies, and it should say, in fact, the first. Thank you.
Jeremy, we'll get that changed.
Yeah, I think you can approve with the change. That's
Simple change like
Simple
that.
change.
Okay, we won't need a motion for that. Okay, any other discussion or comments? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. School board member Archie?
Yes.
School board member Preble?
Yes.
School board member Richards?
Yes.
School board member Roach?
Yes.
School board member Gale?
Yes.
School board member Truman?
Yes.
School board member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion to approve the minutes passes 7-0. That now brings us to the adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Okay, not seeing any, no adjustments. Item number 5, there are no correspondence. Item number 6 is public session. If there is any member of the public that wishes to speak, please step to the podium, state your name, address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the school board. Okay, not seeing anybody wishing to speak. That now takes us to item 7, which is the superintendent's report, and that is Superintendent Ray.
All right, good evening, everybody. Wouldn't it just be nice to have a regular storm that just was predictable snow? Just clean, no-brainer, 18 inches is coming in, make the call the night before, not have to deal with weather, wind, rains, and all the other possibilities. But it does sound like Friday and maybe next Tuesday could be more of it for us to deal with. This is the kind of the season where job fairs become important for us. As you know that there used to be a day where you just opened positions in May and plenty of applicants came for teaching positions, and that's not necessarily the environment that we live in today. And so it's more of a year-round piece, but a lot of the major college fairs and job fair opportunities in the springs to recruiting teachers start after February vacation. And so we'll be getting into that mode of attending those, making sure that we have outreach to possible employees, et cetera, over the next several months. Superintendents, heads of schools will start to meet later this month to start developing the first drafts of calendar for next year. That's a process that we have a law that we have to follow statewide of trying to be within 5 days of each other in each vocational region around the state. And so we'll meet as superintendents so that we can work with our committee here and hopefully sometime in March come out with that first draft of the calendar for the upcoming year. Something that school committees, city councils, mayors should really pay attention to from a law piece is that the Department of Labor will be having listening sessions about the paid leave law that was part of the governor's budget last year. And that could have a significant impact on schools. When that was kind of put into the governor's budget, the funding for that, and as you know, school employees tend to have very good paid leave already in their contracts. This is an additional process that can run parallel, so there's the administration of the plan. But it also started with the conversation that there would be in order to fund this statewide, there would be a 1% payroll tax that would be borne half by employee, half by employer. And there's definitely some talk in the recent weeks that's coming out that is a consideration of a shift to a 70-30 or a fully employer shift is what we're being told. And so if it was at the full 1% for this municipality on the school department side, that has over a $200,000 price tag that we need to add to the budget. And that starts on January 1 of 2025 that the tax has to be paid. Now, obviously, we wouldn't be budgeting for the full 1% or percentage because would be dealing with 6 months. But that is a number that we will need to put into our budget, not knowing the direction that it will go. But why I think that's important for us is because we all work really hard to make sure that we do our best job to present budgets that are low. And while this is just one example, this is a rural tax, something that's being passed on to us that impacts our taxpayers. And while we can all talk about the benefits and, why we should have paid leave, it is something that is going to be something that you'll see a line in our budget that there's an impact for. So if you go on the Department of Labor's website, once I get more information from Maine School Boards Association, I can funnel it your way. I suspect on the city side that John is working on that as well, because it's also a municipal piece to be concerned with. But, when you think about that piece of school and city combined, that's a significant increase that would go on the mill rate when you think of every $1,000, every $100,000 is typically 4.5 pennies on the mill rate. That's just another hit. Budget process, draft budget is in hand that we'll begin to review as principals, directors over the next several weeks in preparation for hoping to have the subsidy report is due to us at the end of January from the state with the kind of initial presentation of subsidy overview would be at the February 7th school committee meeting. Did we win? Did we get money taken away? How does that react to the first part of the budget? By that time, Budget Committee will have, Finance Committee will have a draft budget in hand looking at late February, early March reviews on school staff side with first presentation to the City Council on March 18th. So that's a Monday night. That's our night to go in front of the council and be ready to present where we're at as a school department. So a lot of work to do over the next couple of months financially. We know that one of the big factors when you talk about health insurance, we tend to not have that number until the first week in April, so that hopefully you have an adjustment downward when you get that number. I also suspect that there will be, we know that we've read in the papers that the state of Maine has a budget surplus, like over revenue of like $258 million. I suspect that when school departments all see subsidies and all those pieces, always usually a push in the second session for more. That doesn't mean we're going to get that or anyone would consider that, but we do suspect that there's always a lobbying effort for more money to come to education. So as we play that out for the spring, because when we get to about the second weekend, May, that's when the council is finalizing that budget to be ready to send to voters. And then during school, the construction piece on the agenda, we'll report out good news that we received today. Any questions?
Any questions for Superintendent Ray? Okay, not seeing any. Next, item 8, we do have the chair's report.
I don't have anything major to report this evening. Thank you.
Brings us now to item 9. There are no staff reports. Item 10 is the board subcommittee minutes. You have been presented with the Policy and Personnel Committee meeting minutes for 1/10/24. The Finance and Infrastructure Committee, the next meeting is 1/24/24 at 4:30. And the Curriculum Committee, the next meeting is 1/22/24 at 4:30. Item 11, there is no old business. Item 12 now takes us into new business. And the first item, A, is new hires. You have received a memo in your packet with the list of new hires. There is no action, but are there any questions or concerns? School Board Member Truman.
I believe we have a motion. I move we approve the nomination of Jeremy Allen, Young Schools Strides teacher, and issue a contract for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Yeah, the memo does state that there is no action for any of those items at the.
So I just, I want to talk about that piece because I don't
sure.
believe that, seeing that you're going to need a motion. You did accept his resignation at the last meeting because the employee was going to leave. But in further conversations, they asked if they could stay. There's been no break in employment. There'd be no new hire date. He'd stay with the same piece because he hasn't left us. So
Then I rescind my motion.
And my second.
I'm sorry? School Board Member Johnston?
Sarah withdrew her motion, and I was withdrawing my second.
Okay.
Thank you.
We do have to do the stipends, though, yes.
I'm sorry?
The next one, I'm gonna move, I move we approve the stipend nominations of Noah Koch, C.K. Burns, RTI Coordinator, and Jessica Cook, Fairfield RTI Coordinator, and issue a stipend contract for the remainder of the 2023-2024 school year.
Again, there is no motion that is needed. If you look at the bottom of the memo, there's an asterisk that states the appointments requiring no action. All 3 items have been identified.
It doesn't say that on mine. We usually approve the stipends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't see it on my copy either, so.
Second?
It's the same thing, sorry.
It says that there's no action on.
Right, it says transfers because they were actually transfers requiring no
Right, I'm
action.
doing the stipend positions.
Yep. So that is for information purposes only for the new hires. Okay, and item B is resignations. And again, there are 5 resignations. And again, this is identified as not needing any action.
hold on just a second. It may just be the way that you're reading that piece, because I think where it says here, no action, that's for appointments that require no action. They're kind of like all separate categories, so there'd be no action on that one, no action, there'd be action on this one here. On this one? Right, like if I had names under this, or if I had names under that, then there'd be no action, because those ones, it's just, those are categories with names under it, and those categories kind of always there. There's just no people.
Because the last meeting, it actually had it listed on the.
All right.
Okay. And
So-
so with the.
Why don't we take action on the stipend positions and then,
Okay, I do apologize. Little miscommunication on the way that the memo is written. So we are going to take an action on the stipend position of Noah Coach, Jessica Cook. Is there a motion to approve the new hires for those 2 positions?
I move we approve the stipend nominations of Noah Koch, CK Burns RTI Coordinator, and Jessica Cook Fairfield RTI Coordinator, and issue a stipend contracts for the remainder of the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Preble. Any discussion or comments? School Board Member Gale?
What's the RTI coordinator?
Response to intervention.
Superintendent Ray?
So it would be the teacher who's leading up the work on the response to intervention, looking at student data, collaborating on those pieces, presenting that to teachers, those types of things.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item B, resignations. In your memo, in your packet, there is one item for a motion. That is the resignation or retirement of Ashley Damboyce. Is there a motion to approve?
Madam Mayor,
School Board Member Truman?
I move we accept the resignation of Ashley Damboyce, Fairfield Math Interventionist, effective January 19th, 2024.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Truman. Is there a second?
Second.
School Board Member Johnston, any discussion or comment? School Board Member Gale?
Just a quick question on the memo and the two bus drivers that look like be leaving us, who've already left. How does that affecting the transportation routes, and do we have, in terms of the job fairs and recruitment, is there any specific plan to go after bus drivers?
We're always going after bus drivers. Certainly, we need to look at a salary situation of those. For one of those bus drivers, they drive the Arundel Run for Thornton Academy, and that is going to be a Thornton Academy employee, so there's basically no change. And for the other one on Bob, I'd have to get more details on that route. I know that we are short a couple of routes, and we're combined right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item C, and that is the school construction update from the State Board of Education.
Okay, we had a very good day at the State Board of Education today because the process of site approval went before the State Board, and they approved our site, which means that we now move on to the second part, which is concept approval. Concept approval, we are targeting the March 13th or March 13th meeting is our hope that we will be there, and Meg, certainly come up because you're a big part of this piece. Working really hard to get all of those pieces done. The big piece around concept approval is, one, the structural and layout of your building. But additionally, that's where the architects would present to the State Board really the funding costs for the Department of Education and the breakdown, knowing that the building's going to cost X amount of dollars. This part of it will be state funded. Certainly, we know that there's 5,000 square feet in the current building that is locally for gym and cafeteria. But we're moving ahead, and that March 13th date is an important date because of the timeline that it takes for all of the things that the City Council has to do in order to get something on the ballot. That's the target date that works with their meeting schedule, our meeting schedule, et cetera. And there's a lot of people who are pulling things together. Meg and I meet every week with Oak Point, typically on Thursday mornings, to talk about the building, to talk about those pieces. Been spending some time really talking about materials, like what would the outside be made of? Is it brick? Is it metal? Some, Certainly don't want all one material on the building because it will have no character and those pieces. But I think very soon we're going to be fairly close to, I know you've kind of seen a little bit of what the outside could look like, and they're very drafty. I think with over the next probably 3 to 4 weeks, you'll get to see something that looks a whole lot more real. Now, it doesn't mean that everything that they put on that paper that day will be like final colors or, you know, designs or anything, but it'll give you an idea of what the concept of the building will look like as we move forward in that process. So, pretty exciting day because that's a huge hurdle to get over, is the site approval piece. Concept approval vote, and then a whole lot of design over a year. And you realistically can be thinking about a groundbreaking from that piece. One of the things that we have to schedule is that we will be scheduling another straw poll. So you have a second straw poll for concept, much like you did for site. And one of the pieces that we're working on why we can't give that date is because the date for the State Board of Education's subcommittee for construction is February 23rd, which is school vacation week, and they're going to change that meeting date, and they haven't made that change yet, and we need to coincide with what that meeting date is. Certainly, school vacation week is not exactly the week to have a straw poll meeting, and we're trying to get all those ducks in a row so that we can put all the necessary kind of information out there to the public to know that this is what's going to happen, this is going to be the meeting date, et cetera, et cetera. I think we did get some good feedback from folks about how we would structure the next meeting, where they would really like to have a time on when the vote would be, and have some kind of have the boards and stuff out beforehand before we got into the questions and presentations. Because there were some people there, it's just like, hey, I've got kids that I'm here with me and upstairs, and we got bedtime, and so that we can structure that as, here's kind of like a gallery walk of things first, short presentation, time for questions, vote will happen at this time, and then have the ability to still stay and answer some questions. I think that might be a little bit more helpful for those who have plans in the evening time and had to take off last time because it was rolling a little bit late. We can answer any questions about the building. Pretty exciting stuff.
Any questions?
I just had a question about I'm just looking at your January superintendent report email that went out. You had Thursday, February 29th at 6 p.m. at SMS. Is that
was
TBD now?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of what we were hoping for, because we knew that we were hoping that we can get the next day to be the school construction subcommittee, hoping that they don't move it forward and they just move it back a week. So that's what we're still working on with the chair of that
So
state
it's
board.
supposed to be the 23rd with the state, but
Yeah.
that's not going to happen because of
That's
school vacation.
Correct.
Okay, and you're hoping they'll move it somewhere between those two?
We're hoping that they always meet on Fridays.
They'll just move it to the week before?
We want to go the week back to March 1st.
Oh, okay, go even further back.
Which
okay.
again, in any other month that doesn't have 28 or 29 days, we would have been
Still done
perfectly
it.
on
Yeah.
for that one.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I just read it earlier, and I was like, so, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? School Board Member Gill?
Just a quick question on the concept. Is the concept for the new building to have enough in the pre-K, is that going to have enough space for any and every Saco pre-K student to be located there?
So I believe we have 22 classrooms, Meg, in that building, is that correct?
I think there's 24, there's 12 and 12.
12 and 12.
So it would accommodate the same number of students that our current K accommodates. So in the answer to your question, yes.
Okay, so there'd be essentially no lottery. If there's a student that wants to go to pre-K that lives in Saco, there'll be space for them.
Essentially, that's the plan, is that we would bill for that. Now, obviously, The one thing that's a little bit tricky about K is that if you have a bubble year, you could add a teacher, I'm not saying, but if you were at a situation where you were full and you had a bubble year, you're only allowed 16 students in a pre-K classroom. So that would be the only negative. And that would, I think that we would feel pretty safe on that because that would also be the assumption that every parent is going to choose that option. I don't know that anybody who has universal pre-K or on the say is seeing every parent choose that option.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, moving on to item D, and that is a Thornton Academy tuition update.
Okay. While we had all hoped that every December we would see that, we didn't get quite as lucky this year, did we, Anne Marie? We were well past the date where they promised it to us. But we did see an increase this year of 5.57%, and that MAT is at $13,300.12, plus a 7% IVF, insured value factor. And so we have a situation where the total amount is 14,231 for students. Our October 1 count was for 861. We had budgeted for 890. So unlike last year where it was higher, we are in a better situation that we have some flex in that account for this year. Any questions on tuition rates?
Okay, I'm not seeing any. So that will now take us to item E, and that is an update on the literacy grant. And Meg?
Just wanted to provide a notification. This grant is slightly different than the climate grant that we talked about in that this is an allocation per district. So it's coming from the Department of Education. You still have to apply for the funds and lay out a plan for spending those funds. It's a very tight turnaround. We haven't gotten the application for those grant funds yet. The full application will be due at the end of January, but we do have a sense of what the allowable spending is for the just over $66,000 that Saco has been awarded in that grant, and the intent is to support foundational literacy skills, which is something that we've talked a lot about in reference to curriculum and areas to continue to support our earliest learners and teachers of those students in acquiring foundational literacy skills. We will be looking to spend some of that on professional development, and there's also an ability to spend that on student instructional resources. So we will be working with our English Language Arts curriculum design team that's already aware of this grant, as well as working with those pre-K through 5 teachers, primarily with some options to look at some middle school resources as well, to make sure that we have a solid plan to spend those funds which need to be expended by September of '24. So it is quite a tight turnaround in terms of knowing what we get, hopefully mid-February, what we've applied for and has been approved in that grant, and then we can begin spending through September. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? School Board Member Gale?
I guess later on when we know, later on in February, could you come back and give us more details into what the money's going to be used for and all that? That'd be great. Thank you.
School Board Member Roach?
Where it says grant monies will support professional development, instructional materials, is that the grant rules or is that your estimate of where it should go?
That's the rules of the grant, and in our early conversations, we are looking to kind of balance that between those different areas. I don't think that where we've just purchased a word study curriculum for K-5, we aren't necessarily in need of that quantity to kind of dump all in one bucket. So I anticipate we'll spread that out over those different pieces.
And this is a question on professional development. if a teacher to get professional development credit, could working with students directly, like after school for an hour, and also get paid through the grant for this, would that count as professional development if there was?
That would not count towards professional development unless you are using it in kind of a coaching model where a teacher was getting feedback about their instructional practices, but there is some allowance for like a tutoring program or something that we might come up with, which may be, as we kind of apply for the grant and see what will or won't be approved, that could be an allowable expenditure, not for professional development credits, but for instructional purposes to pay for additional instructional time.
The word I was thinking of is tutoring, if that was it. Similar to, say, getting a stipend for after-school athletic activities, coaching the student, helping this student extra time for literacy initiatives that might not be done right now.
Yeah.
Where the teacher, of course, can benefit with direct stipend, but also you have that one-on-one with those students that, I don't know how you'd select, say it was 25, 30 students with that type of money or not, but.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate that idea. One thing about this grant is I believe from what we've heard in the Zooms and webinars is that they're really trying to target core instruction for students. So they're looking for that funding to hit the largest number of students rather than a high impact with a smaller number of students. So we would be unlikely to consider like a smaller scale one-on-one tutoring with this particular grant.
Okay, thank you.
I think the other piece that we just have to, what's difficult about a grant like this is that Meg and Meg and Mandy will work together to come up with the plans, of what's happening. But you have to put that in the application, not have a long delay of the state approving too far outside the box because the money has to be out the door September of this year. And so you don't really, the Friday email that says good news also results in some things that you have to do in a short turnaround of time.
School Board Member Gale?
Actually, just in terms of the grant program, is this, it says it's recent, due to recent legislation, is this going to be an annual grant program for the next couple years in the budget, or?
I don't want to speak for the DOE, but I doubt it. My understanding is that they're reallocating returned ESSER ARP funds for this purpose. So districts that might not have been able to use some of the COVID relief funds that were allocated in earlier grants are returned to the state, and the state has a short window of time before they're going to be required to return them to the federal government. And so they're trying to bank on past legislation to dump the money in something that will further that.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, not seeing any. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Now moves us to item F of new business, and that is a second and final reading of the policies listed: the IJOA field trip and other student travel, IJND website and social media, EEA student transportation services, IJJ instructional and library media material selection, and the IJJE challenge of instructional materials form. Is there a motion to approve? School Board Member Johnston?
Thank you. I move we approve the second reading of policies IJOA, IJND, EEA, IJJ, and IJJ-E.
Second.
Motion has been made by School Board Member Johnston, second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion or comments? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote.
A couple.
School Board Member Roach.
More of a fun question, but on the field trips, when I was young, it was a fun trip at the end of the year, and we went to Candy Lake Park, and up here, of course, you got Funtown, Splash Town, whatever. Is that done anymore for field trips or here? Because it says, in addition, some school-sponsored trips may provide social experiences, but it seems like the heading, rules on the educational value, and other trips are more about academic trips or maybe even non-school. So I don't know what's counted is that type of thing counted as a field trip?
I think it probably would be, and I do think it would be something that would be a social but fun thing. I mean, there are fun things that happen in school. One of the things that we've had a lot of conversation about in the last year on field trips, Marie and I have had these conversations with others, is that one of the things that is a priority for me is that any of those experiences that we offer throughout the school day cannot come at a cost to families that prohibits a kid from attending. And that's something that's really important to me. Like, and I'm just making this up, Kevin, but let's go to Canopy Lake Park and I need to charge every family $40.
Yep.
We can't be in the business of sponsoring things that put the haves and the have-nots out there. And so, yes, we need to first make sure that we have programs that are academic focused as well, at the fore. But there are times that when you have something like Funtown in your community and you can get kids over there, again, thinking that there are many kids who have a season pass and there's kids in our community who've never been. We just need to make sure that all of those experiences are not, there's no barrier for a family piece. And so, yes, those things still exist, but they've got to work together in the right way.
That's where I was going with it, with kids that are more underprivileged, that, these are great memories for school and great motivation where they might not be able to get to those places and make it, and it's a reward at the end of the year for them as well. And, plenty of great memories as a kid for that, for other kids that weren't necessarily, going out to vacations like that or doing things, so.
And I think that in the last year, we really were able to get into a place where we said, if we feel like this is an important experience for our children, then we will make sure that there is no barrier financially, whether that's school-funded, donations, and not making sure that nobody's feeling like they don't want to ask. We've got to take care of it up front, no barriers whatsoever, and I think that Marie has done a really good job with that piece of making sure that that message is, because that's a big cultural shift too. Right. And sometimes we don't always understand the why, but it's just as simple as, when the ice cream truck shows up and you've asked everyone to bring in $5, we've got to make sure that every person goes to that ice cream truck and has the opportunity to get the same item as everybody else, because we can't operate that way.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion to approve the policies passes 7-0. Okay, item number 13, there is no other information. Item 14, there is no executive session. And that takes us to item 15 for adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by School Board Member Truman, second by School Board Member Preble. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
School Board Member Roach?
Fare thee well, yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn passes 7-0 at 7:41.